I could make a video right now saying FL Studio users, you all smell like old ass spaghetti. And people would be upset, but not as upset as they get when I criticize their precious generative AI. So anytime I criticize generative AI for committing copyright infringement on a grand scale, the response is almost always, what about sampling, Payne? You sample, what about sampling? Here's what about sampling. Copyright law states that if you sample any copyrighted audio, no matter the length, it is copyright infringement unless you've gotten permission from all owners. Yes, you can get sued for copyright infringement. This kid, Trey Fuego, got sued for $800,000 for not clearing a sample off of a song that went viral. He's not even signed to a label. He's a kid. He got sued $800,000. AI is not getting fined $800,000, and they've stolen tens, if not hundreds of millions of songs to train their platform. Well, what if you just generate samples with AI? Well, who knows? Because the top 2 generative AI platforms are currently being sued for copyright infringement. So anything could happen. It's anyone's guess. But take the BBL Drizzy situation, for example. This is the first case that we know of an AI song being sampled. And so the clearance process, shout out to the Crucial brothers. Of course, the AI, the AI summaries completely butchered it. It says the BBL Drizzy sample clearance for Drake and Sexy Red is significant because it set a new precedent for using AI generated music in official releases. Because the original BBL Drizzy beat was AI generated by King Wonus. It's King Wallonius. This is why AI is not the future that we think it is. Oh, good Lord. And Elon Musk wants to create a judicial system based on AI. Can you imagine? They can't even get King Wallonius, right? They're going to be handing out death penalties for all types of shit. That's probably what he wants. The master recording is considered public domain and isn't copyrighted in the traditional sense. However, the human lyrical input meant that clearance for the lyrics was still required. Okay, so King Wallonius wrote a comedic song, dropped the lyrics into Udio, created an AI generated track, which got sampled. So if you clear it, you don't have to clear the master because the master is not owned by anybody, except the overall song's master is owned by the label. Kind of weird, right? But because the human part of it was the lyrics writing, they had to clear that. Now, the lyrics are only a portion of the underlying composition, so I'm curious to actually know how those percentages broke down. But this is a very weird space that we're in. So when you ask somebody who owns AI music, I mean, no one really knows. Even Congress doesn't make it clear. Even the federal government doesn't make this clear. Yes, the Copyright Office made the statement that come on, dude. That fully AI generated work is not copyrightable, but human authorship is a bedrock requirement of copyright. So if there's a little bit of human input and authorship, then what does that mean? It's still not clear. The sample clearance process is incredibly clear. Anyone can figure it out. With regard to AI, the U.S. Copyright Office had said that music made only by AI without any human help might not be protected. So it might not, but it might be. Basically, they're saying we don't know yet. We're just going to stall until something changes. So then tell me this. Why is an AI artist, Zanaya Monet, created by Talisha Jones, why is Talisha Jones claiming that she owns her masters when all she did was type lyrics into Suno, hit a button, and a song came out? So according to all of these resources we just read together, she wouldn't own the masters. Those would be public domain, which means they have no owner. But somehow she apparently sold them to a label, Halwood Media, for upwards of $3 million. So something's not right. We talked about it with a lawyer. At this point, all we have are guesses and opinions.
Yeah, she writes the lyrics and Suno generates the sound.
100% of the song.
It was reached out. I chose where I felt like home was, and also where I can remain independent and still keep 100% of my masters.
This AI music creator seems very confident that she owns her own masters, but as a music lawyer, I'm just not so sure.
You actually ended up getting into I didn't know about this. You got into an argument with the manager about this. So they are doubling down on this idea that they own their masters. Why are you skeptical? Why are the rest of us skeptical?
Well, first, I think it's really interesting that this team seems to think just because it is successful on the algorithm and Spotify on the charts, that the music industry owes them a certain amount of respect. And it seems like that makes them very uncomfortable that there's a lot of people in the business that don't love the situation. But, the fight that I got into with a bunch of different Suno users, and then the manager jumped in. I saw that he followed me like a week and a half before, and then I saw that clip. I was like, oh, he's not going to like this. But it's really the confidence in which this AI music creator says, I own these masters, because the law is really tricky and really complicated. And there was another clip. It was a longer clip, and I just made it shorter because the nature of social media. But there was a longer clip where Tamron Hall was confirming how she makes this music. She's like, so you write all your own lyrics, but then you don't play any instruments. No, you don't sing. No, you just put it into Suno, and Suno outputs it. She's like, yep, that's how I do it. And so based on her own representations, if it was 100% generated by Suno, yeah, you might own the lyrics. You might own that composition, that piece. But the master sound recording is still 100% created by Suno, and you don't own that piece. So to say, I signed this record deal, I chose them because I get to own my masters, really, I think it's an overstatement of what the law is currently. So that's where I was coming from.
Because I know with the BBL Drizzy situation, when that track was sampled for the Sexy Red and Drake record, You My Everything, they only could clear, I believe, the underlying composition with, is his name King Wallonius?
Mm-hmm.
And he's the one who wrote the lyrics. He didn't write the music. He just input it into, and I believe that was Udio, not Suno.
Correct.
And Udio is now gone. There really wasn't any sort of copyright enforcement. What I understand with regards to copyright and AI, it's a mess, but you can't self-report or self-verify. What is the term?
What's the term? Yeah, I mean, it's my problem with it is that it's this honor system, and that you've got to basically, as long as you say, yes, I own a piece of this, nobody's making you show what percentage was used by Suno, what percentage was human input. And unless somebody challenges that in court, that's kind of the best that we have.
But we know when we listen to it, we know we can break it down. We know, and I broke down the stems. It's one of those things where, and I don't want to make it about Talisha, the woman behind Zanaya Monet. I just want to make it about Suno. Talisha, go ahead and get your money. I think with regard to the Zanaya Monet project, it is some of the most straightforward and basic Suno output I've ever heard. It doesn't even sound like 4.5, and they're on version 5 right now, I believe. So it is most certainly just a matter of inputting lyrics and pushing a button. I know there were rumors floating around saying there are live elements, blah, 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 sufficient human input. No, I would die on that hill. There wasn't.
But even if there was human input, I think that that conversation I had with the manager, where he was basically saying, myself and my lawyer are very educated on the music industry. Thanks for your opinion. That I think there's still some misunderstanding of what a work, even if there was substantial human input, what that really means. It's no different than using a sample that's in the public domain or using a splice sample or something like that. Like, think about the Sabrina Carpenter song Espresso that used the splice sample, the guitar. Her including that into Espresso didn't mean that she owned that splice sample. She owned the completed work that incorporated that splice sample. But if you pull that splice sample back out, just in isolation, that's not hers magically because she made this new master recording. And the same is true with any of these Suno elements. So if you can pull out the 100% vocal Suno stem, that isn't magically copyrighted because she might have added live guitars or something like that.
So I guess, like, why does this, how, in terms of how this plays out and where money gets collected, I mean, she's still going to collect all her money from her distributor. There might be an issue, like if there's some kind of sync placement, right, with like like say if a movie wanted to come in and sync the song, would she just receive compensation for the composition side? Like they probably would just take her word for it anyway. They probably,
I
because she's saying she owns the masters, like they probably clear both sides with her.
I think they would take her word for it, and that's kind of more or less what Hollywood Media did when they signed her. I think her biggest nightmare would be if somebody stemmed out the vocal, which is, I think, undeniably 100% AI. And they didn't make any derivative work. They didn't remix it. They didn't do anything else that could run into copyright issues. And they just uploaded that to Spotify. They're not making any claims to the composition. She would still get paid through PROs and the MLC and that kind of stuff. But they just did that. And she tried to do a DMCA takedown on that Suno vocal stem, saying that she owns it. And they challenged that in court. Man, I would love to see that case. And I think that she would lose that 9 times out of 10.
But I mean, I don't know. But even that, it's like, I mean, maybe that new song gets some traction, but now that there's so much traction on these songs, I don't know how Spotify's algorithm, like I just don't think, to me it doesn't sound like it matters, like in terms of the money that she's going to be collecting.
No, it doesn't. We're in this new age where the music industry was all about actual legal rights, and you monetize because of legal rights. And now you monetize, even if those legal rights are sketchy, you monetize because of access and ownership of the distro account and you making these registrations.
Yeah. I hope, I mean, and Two Lost doesn't have, I don't think any distributor has this yet. Like, I hope that, it seems like Suno's here to stay. I feel like there should be some kind of like link between like databases where, as soon as you upload a song, it gets identified as AI, and hopefully there's a connection. That I have no idea if that would ever happen. But I actually had another question, Ron. I'm just curious, like, that $3 million figure that was floated when she announced her deal, are you skeptical of that number? Do you think that number's real? Like, how do you feel about that number?
Yeah, I think you got to put a big asterisk next to that number. I don't doubt that wasn't a $3 million total value deal, but was that a deal where she signed it and she got $3 million cash in hand advance upon signing? I would highly doubt it. I think that there was some cash advance, but I think there was also a marketing budget, a music fund, and some other kind of contingent things that the label was responsible for. And maybe they were discretionary. Maybe there were certain success marks that had to be hit for them to activate. So I think that number is very helpful in getting the headlines. And certainly I think all of the success only drives more users to Suno, because they're like, hey, if she can do it, maybe I can do it too. But I am skeptical that she got a $3 million check.
Well, so I want to ask both of you this question then. Ryan, you've negotiated a lot of label agreements. Dame, you ran a label. If they were, because most label deals, when someone announces they signed a $3 million, $4 or $5 million label deal, it's the same situation. They're not leaving with $3 million in a suitcase. For $3 million, doesn't the label want something in return? So why would they give her all that money and allow her to retain master ownership, underlying composition ownership? And she said 100% in the interview. That's the part that made me skeptical beyond anything else. I know that the laws with AI and copyright are a mess, and I think in practice it won't matter unless something crazy happens and there's a precedent. But why would Hollywood Media allow an artist to retain 100% of everything and then drop millions of dollars on the deal? What do they get?
Yeah, I think it's a misunderstanding of what ownership on paper means and what the actual rights are. Like, yeah, sure, there wasn't a two different ways you can handle a record deal, as you both know. An artist can either sign away all the masters as a work for hire to the label, which means that from the beginning of time, from when that work was created, the label owns the copyrights and you'll never, ever get those back. Or you can do an exclusive license to the label. Nobody else can use that for that license term. You still technically own your copyright and your master, subject to them being the only person that can do anything with it. The only person that can license it, only person that can distribute it, sell it, etc. So I think it's an exclusive license, and some of these exclusive license deals, especially with these kind of viral acts, can be for the life of the copyright. So yeah, it could be technically that she is the author and owner of the master. She hasn't given up the ownership, but it's subject to a very long or maybe indefinite exclusive license to Hollywood.
How much should independent artists be paying attention to this?
I don't think they need to get too discouraged about these deals, because I kind of feel like a few of these deals, and they've been the same label. The first producer that signed a big deal was to Hollywood Media, and then Zanaya Monet was Hollywood Media. And we're going to see a few more of these big deals come through. There was a $50 million deal that Higgsfield said that they did, but that was really an investment in their AI tech. I think we're going to see that bubble burst a little bit. It's going to be like NFTs, where an NFT sold for $4 million and now you can't give that thing away. But I think we're going to see a lot more situations where legitimate artists, producers, songwriters, people that made music before AI was a thing, are incorporating it into their production. And that's kind of probably where this is all heading. That's why Suno is advertising a whole lot. And I unfortunately take some credit for the push that they have to human authors, because after that whole K-Fresh Timbaland thing happened, I spoke to many people at Suno about their biggest issue was that they are a tool that is marketing to non-music creators who have a lot of disdain and hate for live music creators. And I said, if you ever want to gain the respect of the music community, you have to use it as a tool and actually incorporate real human artists. And I think to their credit, they took that, but I didn't expect them to hammer down that as much as they have.
I think I'm waiting for an artist to use it in a very creative way. Like, I can see an artist, a rapper, or maybe even another genre, like creates like an arch nemesis where you go back and forth with. Like, obviously you're still making your music, but you're maybe AI generating the arch nemesis, and there's some, creative back and forth. But I really think that even though these AI artists are generating, or some of them are generating a decent amount of streams, like these are streams from the people that typically have been very difficult from independent artists to reach anyway. It's those passive listeners. Like it's the listeners that got reached by radio, used to get reached by radio.